That should have worked.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another Tuesday stream. We've got a special one today. We are working through some docs with a fellow person on the Tauri team, Simon, and we are both streaming here on YouTube and also on the stage in Discord. So we're going to be doing kind of working in parallel, answering questions in both chats. So feel free to hop into either, and I guess from there, say hi to Simon. Can you introduce yourself, Simon?
Hello, everybody. I'm Simon. I'm that weirdo online that you met that one time. I'm one of the maintainers here at Tauri. Been part of the project since the beta days, and nowadays I am one of the community domain leads, and primarily contribute towards the documentation on the project.
Nice. And if y'all are aware, docs are a great place to contribute. And it's also a place that we will always be thankful for help. And we particularly need it at this point because that's probably one of the bigger blockers to actually going V2 stable at this point. So that's part of the reason we're working Docs Live to answer questions and hopefully entice people to get involved. I guess from there, I'm going to switch over to my display. Simon, feel free to reach out. Did you want to go? Maybe we can talk about is there any issues that we want to talk about in the docs first, or should we just start jumping into stuff?
Well, we can start by just checking the project board, because I have actually put a fair bit of effort into making sure that it's pretty up to date and fully set up.
That would be, so if you go into the Tauri docs repo, which is where the docs live. Hey, Daniel. Good to see you. There's projects. Also, hey Nicola. I didn't say hi before because Simon was talking. Yeah, so this is the board that Simon's looking at right now.
Yeah, and on the first tab, you have the general status. You can sort here based on milestones, or you can go to one of the tabs where you can get this Kanban view in 2.x, and 1.x.
Nice.
Then there's a couple other tabs that are of varying usefulness. I've mainly used them while doing the initial cleanup of the issue. It kind of took over after.
Can we losing you a little bit there, Simon? At least on the video side.
My network again, that's being a bitch. It's the things that I have fast internet into the building, but my after installing Ubuntu, there's some stability issues here and there for some reason.
Gotta love those computer gremlins.
Oh yeah, I couldn't even get the Ubuntu at first to discover the network card that it had to use, so I had to download zip files of drivers, and I gotta love being back in Linux. Gotta say. But yeah, we have a bunch of different statuses for stuff. So stuff that's in the backlog. Don't work on stuff that's in the backlog. It's stuff that has some tag, either discuss or upstream, that's related to stuff that we need to talk about, or stuff that needs to be fixed elsewhere. So there's stuff that you shouldn't work on. Then there's stuff that's ready. Ready stuff is good.
I love the emojis in the status. Sorry. The backlog.
Yeah, it just looks a little bit more fun.
I love it.
So then all the stuff that's in the ready column are stuff that we, at least, or I, am not aware that anyone has tagged that they want to work on. So anything that's in the ready column is up for grabs. Anything that's in the in progress column, someone is probably working on it right now. Anything that's in review is something that someone has worked on, and it's no longer in draft there, and we're actively reviewing it to get it merged, which I see now that we actually have an issue that I'm going to move. And for those who aren't used to working in this type of setup, if you want to do the most effect, if you go to the V2 tab instead, because it's just easier to do overview, you work from right to left in these in a pull based fashion. So if you want to do the biggest amount of benefit for the project, getting stuff from in review to done is better, like starting there and then checking, oh, what's in progress, can we push something across the finish line, and then going ready. So you work in a pull based fashion from the right side, trying to pull things in. But for new contributors, it's of course best to just jump into the ready column and just grab something. Make sure you get assigned to it so that people aren't doing the same thing in parallel. Then just go nuts and work on it. My job as a maintainer is of course to get things from in review to done. Your purpose is to get like as a contributor, get it into in progress and then shipped into in review. It's often nicer as well to have a PR up early in the process, just as a tip, because you can put it in a draft early on, and it helps with collaboration. You get the preview deployed early, and it's easier to discuss various proposals. We've had a bunch of people wanting us to merge documentation that's like, okay, that's a nice idea, but if we don't actually see it, it's hard to discuss it
Yeah.
in a
Yeah,
better
makes
way.
sense to me.
So yeah, 2.0 issues are any issues that are blocking for a 2.0 release of Tauri. So you won't see version 2 of Tauri until this board is completely cleared. And it's a bunch of issues in here, and we're not even sure if this is all the issues, because we've tried to get people to make more issues for the documentation, but it's been hard to get people motivated to actually write issues. So, but this is everything that we are aware of. So if anyone out there has a problem with the documentation, I know we had some people in chat that said that they have a lot of criticisms of the documentation. If you can get issues made for it, that's really good and helpful. But we can talk about it during the stream as well. But that should be your go-to place to put in issues. In 2.0, blocking for a Tauri release. 2.x, not blocking. 1.x, obviously targets version 1.
Got it. And
So those,
that's the tabs that you're talking about.
yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
there are milestones as well in in GitHub. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're in the regular GitHub view, you can find them in the milestones section.
Okay. And then, so besides just the issues too, I presume it would be anything that's like tagged as a stub or work in progress on the doc site would be.
Yeah, anything that's a stub or like, ideally we should already have a an issue for anything that's a stub. That might not be the case because we haven't been too good at making the issues, but like making enough issues. In fact, at some point I know we had issues about making issues, but that didn't end up getting done. um,
Okay.
so yeah, anything you find that's in a work in progress, probably someone who knows Tauri intimately is supposed to take care of that. Like most likely, but there's others that's marked stub. Stub are completely like unwritten.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So
And
it's usually easier to work on something that's completely unwritten, because the ones that already exist, if you have version 1 knowledge only, then you probably can't write the work in progress ones because they already have migrated contents that needs specifically version 2 updates.
have we gotten all of the parts from V1 that make sense migrated already then?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So
Or
basically we're going to work off of like the V2 branch, and we're just moving everything forward. There's nothing that needs to come from V1.
as far as I know, at least,
Okay.
I've gone through the version 1 documentation a couple times, because like 9 months ago or something, I was sitting and while developing on version 2 stuff, and I kept referencing version 1 stuff, and eventually I was like, I can't keep jumping into the version 1 documentation and for version 2, that just can't keep happening. So
Yep. Yep.
that's when I was like, okay, let's migrate everything, so everything should be that at least I considered to be of value. So we have stuff like this,
Okay.
calling the front end from the Rust end. Some of these will be, if you just check the website, some stuff will be say that it's in stub or whatever, but there is actually, for example, for the state management, I know there is an in review PR for that. So
Got it.
you have to double check GitHub to make sure that you don't do double work.
Makes sense to me. So I got a question in chat from Julian. I'll get to your question in a second, but on topic, Paul, also hi. You had an issue with links between pages in the documentation last week, and you didn't think about raising it at the time, which fair. But I'm wondering if so we generate some docs, right?
Yep.
We have docs that are effectively written next to the code in Rust and in JavaScript. Both of those are then generated and dumped into the site.
Yep.
I think, was there an issue with that? And was that not actually being published through, and some of those might be out of date?
In the V1 docs, I want to
V1
say that,
only. Okay.
yeah, we, at least as far as I know, it was only V1. V2 should be up to date.
Okay.
It is, as far as I know, at least. We do have issues with the configuration pages. There's issues, an upstream issue with what's it called? I don't remember what it's called. I thought I had an upstream issue about this. Damn it. Seems to be gone. There's an issue in the core repository where the schema files that get generated don't escape code blocks and stuff like that correctly in the schema file. So if we go to github.com/Tauri, in the core library, we have in config schema, we have this schema JSON file, and there's all these descriptions that gets generated based on the source code, and schema rs that generates that file is improperly handling code blocks in it. So if you go to the configuration page then and scroll through it, some entries look weird, and I did do a little bit of emergency patching of some of it in Tauri, but Amr said that he would prefer it if we don't do a lot more of these kind of workarounds to fix the generated documentation, and instead look into an actual proper upstream fix
Yep.
to schema rs. So that's something, the config generation stuff, that's a little bit broken. I
Okay.
think there's also some broken links and some broken formatting. I looked into that. Let's see, it was called web view Right, web view install mode. If you jump to that one, you can use the right hand side to find. You can see that the formatting there is just completely bonkers.
Yeah. Okay. So and this is actually, this schema comes from not upstream Tauri apps / Tauri, but even further upstream
Well,
from there.
oh yeah, I mean the schema file comes from Tauri. Like
Yeah.
we do commit that one, but yeah, it's another project that actually that we use in order to generate it.
Okay. Yeah. Only so Fabian said that. Actually, here I'm getting ahead of myself. So Paul, one of the things, if you do run into issues, one of the things that I would keep an eye on is if it is showing up in generated documentation based off of the Rust crates or the uh, JavaScript or TypeScript type doc stuff, or if it's actually within the Markdown content itself. So the guides, anything in the guides sidebar is mostly going to be written directly in Markdown. I'd say most of the stuff under references is probably going to be generated.
Yeah,
So that'll kind of point
current.
to where you would need to fix it, and also if it's a bigger issue than just a single link that was missed or out of date documentation.
Yeah, yeah, references are almost 100% generated. I think it's the command line interface that we might be doing manually, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's all generated stuff.
Okay.
Or other than the yeah, yeah, it's generated in the references section. No, I got lost in my head.
Fabian says that. Also, hey Fabian. Fabian is on the helps a lot with the Tory stuff too. He's
Yeah.
very involved. I always appreciate that. But anyways, Fabian said that the installer bundle customization guides from V1 are still missing, but they should that should mostly be it. The rest can't be ported as is, as it doesn't meet the standards.
Yeah,
Um,
that sounds about right.
and he also says that the V1 should be fixed, but we don't know until next release. Um, as a bit of a side note for me, I would like to see if we can like set that up to test out of band so that we could actually try generating it before we actually do release to see if it's working.
Hmm.
Um, or because some of the changes we could potentially push in ahead of time. So we could, if something's sitting on the main branch, we could generate it and grab just the pieces that we care about or something. But even just for testing, it would be nice to be able to generate it out of band.
Hmm.
And I think we had that for V1. We might have. I'm going through all the CI lately, so I'll take a look
Hmm.
at it. But we might have lost that in our transition. Um, and Paul says he's wondering how to raise an issue. Yeah, you can ask in Discord if it's there might be ones that are a little bit more, you could qualify as obvious if it's a broken link or something. If it's more out of date documentation, or I've run into a couple of cases where it seems like my types are wrong. That might be something that's worth bringing up in the Discord first, or other if you're less inclined to do Discord, honestly, an issue would work. And we can move issues between repos. So if you open up in the Tauri repo and it's more of a documentation thing, we can always move it too, as it sees fit. Nicola, when Tauri V3. Write more documentation for us, Nicola, and then we'll start working on V3. Oh, the generation can be triggered whenever. Fix was in the Tauri publishing workflow. Okay. So using the GitHub CLI worked fine locally, so it should work in CI too. Nice. Yes, as long as the token works. It's always that glue code that gets you. Cool. All right. Yep. Flapili? Yes. And anything in references in that references tab is generated either from TypeScript through TypeDoc or from the Rust code through, is it RustDoc?
Yeah.
So pretty much everything in that tab is generated. And I mean, somebody's still writing it. It's just now it's next to the code. And in theory, that means that it should more likely be up to date or be kept up to date.
Yep.
In theory.
In theory, there's some. There, I've wanted to update a lot of documentation in the Rust and like in the code as well for a while now. Mainly adding examples actually, because we lack a lot of examples in the Rust documentation right now.
Yeah, and
Keep
I've
having
noticed that
to.
like some of our types have slowly slipped out of date, or
Mm,
our the example that we have adjacent to it has slipped out of date from what our types are actually saying, or
yep.
the code too.
Yeah, so anyone that wants to contribute to documentation but doesn't like writing guides and stuff like that, you can actually sit and write examples in the main repository. It's a great way of getting like commits into Tauri so that you can have that on your like as a badge of honor that you're a contributor to the main repository. Just update some comments there. That's also appreciated.
All right. Do we have anything else? Nicholas said that they're going to write 10 guides in the next week. It's being facetious. Is there a model of well-documented JS guest that you could take a look at to document push notification plugin? I've noticed that both the FE and the JavaScript part of it is less documented on the yeah, Fabian. Well documented, probably not. If you need a little bit more assistance with that, I've gone through some of that on streams, but I haven't had time to personally divulge that into actual documentation either. So that might be a source of getting you unstuck. But if you go ahead and everything you learn shift up into the docs, that's always appreciated. Yep. Okay. Go ahead.
No, nothing.
Okay. Hey, Chris. Good to see you. All right, so I've cloned on the docs. I'm gonna double check first to make sure we don't have anything really like kicking off in the places that I have top of mind.
Fabian, since we have you here anyway, just because I know PNPM, it is fine that we update PNPM minor versions, right? It was going from 8 to 9 that was the big issue. Because I know you wanted to keep them synced between. Yeah, okay. Then I'll just. Gotta be a good maintainer and actually approve stuff.
So I think I'm probably if nobody else is, I don't think anybody else has, but I think I'm gonna look at the store plugin because we've been using that a bunch on stream, and I can probably just write that off the top of my head here.
That's fine. Let's get that merged.
Okay, and here's the state management page. Nice.
Yeah, that's the one Rigidity wrote based on my article.
Oh, nice. So this is primarily talking about the Rust side of things.
Yeah, exclusively actually, because we don't really do state management in the JavaScript end. I don't think we have anything that actually exposes states to the JavaScript end in any way. I think this is
Um,
a pure Rust feature.
so this is more. Uh, is it the store plugin?
No, not states. State management is the state struct in the Rust end. Have you used it?
No, I haven't had to use that yet.
Then you've missed out on one of the most powerful features of Tauri. It's amazing.
It's funny because most of the stuff I do on stream is the like cursed experimental multiple PRs mushed together kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've seen
It's
some of them, and it's really interesting stuff that you make.
so it's like it's interesting because people are like, "Oh, you haven't used this thing yet?" It's like, actually, no, I haven't. Probably because I've been doing all the like wild stuff off in the corner.
Yeah,
I don't travel the normal happy path, as it were.
yeah, and
Yeah, we'll
I
cherry
mean,
pick that commit.
if yeah, if you're good at Rust as well, there's a lot of the Tauri stuff that a lot of the stuff that Tauri offers is just other crates
Yep.
features. So the state struct and that stuff, that is pretty much just a re-export of from another crate. So you might have used the underlying crate instead in your project potentially.
A lot of the stuff
So
that we've used on stream has been um, on the JavaScript side of things
okay,
because the like I feel like that's been a big thing in V2 where we had a lot of support for various features, but more purely Rust in V1. Um,
yep,
so in V2 we've wired up the invokes and added classes for a bunch of these things. So um,
yep.
we've been diving down the how can we write as little Rust as possible? Because I suspect that that's sort of an inroad for people.
Yeah, and here I am on the complete other end of the spectrum. I try to write not write a single line of JavaScript in my project.
Okay, so the I imagine it'll probably make sense to come back around to and at least manage the other or mention the other options in that state management section. But um, we'll wait for that one to land first. I think I'm gonna jump on the store plugin. I don't see anybody working on that.
Hmm.
Um,
Um, and as a good contributor, you first go to the relevant issue and get yourself assigned.
I don't think
If
it's.
there is one. If
I
there
would
isn't
say,
one, then
yeah,
I mean, I usually say in the case where there isn't an issue, just make the PR and let that be your issue. Like
yep,
documentation isn't quite the same as like actual coded development where you might want to have an issue for tracking it as well regardless. Here
yeah,
just make the PR directly if there's not one.
that makes sense to me. I guess the one thing to be said about working off of an issue to start is if it's going to be documentation that's involved, like if it's going to take you multiple sessions to work through it, and there's other people that are potentially like if it's a hot topic or something that other people might be interested in writing, you don't really want to get yourself into the situation where you work on it for a week and then somebody opens up a PR with the same.
Yep.
So I think that kind of harks back to the Simon mentioning open up a draft PR
Yeah.
because that's either having an issue and the issue assigned to you or opening up a draft PR is a way to sort of de-risk that potential issue. Yeah, Daniel mentioned the decision to switch to everything in a lib.rs instead of a main.rs. I know
Right.
we've mentioned that in the migration guide, right? I remember going through that in migration.
Yeah. We. I don't know how much we've transitioned the docs into that.
I guess if I think that my gut says that that's only going to matter if you're coming from V1. If you're jumping right into V2, you might not it might not feel as much of an issue.
The issue right now, as far as I know, is that um, the template has been developed in V2 so that by default, if you don't want mobile, then you don't have the librs because you don't need it.
Mm.
And I think Ammer is primarily the one that has been fighting to keep the concept of having main RS for desktop only apps.
Okay.
Um,
I've honestly changed
whereas,
a few of my projects to do that too, where I've pulled out the
because
librs.
yeah, because librs is just as a standard entry point, it makes more sense in documentation at least, because otherwise we have to like for every tab where we have like, oh, write this code in librs. No, I'm writing in main rs. God damn it. So that we can make some assumptions about your entry point, it makes sense to make you use librs because it works for both desktop and mobile. And even if you're making a desktop app, you might later on migrate it to being a mobile app. Makes sense to do it right from the start with the librs. So there's not really much reason to not have a librs. There's zero like benefit from not having it, other than if you it's better for your own like mentality or something for to have a main rs, like if you prefer that. But functionality wise, there's no difference.
I wonder if it makes sense in potentially one of the like core concepts, and because like folks could always opt to switch to only main RS
Yeah.
if they feel the need. But yeah, like in reality, just stabilizing everything on a librs is probably the easiest way to just define it in the docs. But if we
Yeah.
mention that in like I was going to say the Tauri architecture, but I suspect people are probably going to just jump right over some of that.
Yeah. And we're always going to have to live with the fact that people are skipping over basically everything we write.
Right.
That's kind of the experience you get when you're sitting in support, and it's like most of the time you're just a glorified search engine. But that is also like both the harsh reality of like people's attention spans nowadays. They don't sit and read 1,000 lines of documentation before they start working. But also, if you're working
Yeah.
in support, it's actually nicer to just keep pointing people at the right place instead of spending hours and hours on actually solving these issues over and over for people.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah, I'm
maybe
not sure either. I think maybe in develop section it might make sense somewhere.
and
Core
honestly, like
concepts.
even some
Yeah.
of that cross linking, like I would like it. I agree. I think it makes sense to mention in the develop section, but we could go into a deeper dive. I kind of wonder if the develop might be a place where people go, oh, I went through the quick start. I'm good to go. I'm just gonna skip the next pieces and just go straight to develop. But I
Yep.
wonder if we could use develop as a way to like point back to places in security or course concepts that
Mm.
um, as they're reading through and they go, oh, why do I have a if you want to know where librs or a main rs, go here, go to the architecture
I,
section, and it gives you like a whole 3 or 4
one question
paragraphs.
is here I have something. So this is kind of what I have in my website where we have like references. I don't know if you can see my screen. Do you have me open somewhere? Or
Yep. I got it on the
yeah,
other monitor.
yeah. So I have this kind of references section at the bottom, and you can make references throughout it. There is a more official way of doing that in Markdown and Starlight. I just never remember the syntax, but I think it's like you just
Yeah,
make a list of links at the bottom or something,
yeah,
and
it's
they
what
become
annotations I
references.
think they're called in Markdown.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably it. I never remember the syntax for it, but yeah, we should definitely do cross page linking. That's a good thing. Try to force people to go back to these core concepts.
And then, like, honestly, at least from the way that I end up reading docs, I tend to like look at the start, see how you get set up, jump to like I want to see what some code looks like.
Yeah,
And then if I just have like nudges to point me back to other places to read, like I think that works for how I end up reading docs as of late.
yeah. Let's see. I know we have a PR for calling frontend. From where do we have that one? There's so many PRs. I had one I
B
wanted to check specifically.
B mentions that they hope that we get some more docs on the updater. The we've we added a couple, I think. I don't know when you last looked, but was it under pipelines? The part of the problem with the both the updater and publishing it is it's you start to get into you hit like different paths. Like you can if you use Crab Nebula as a cloud service, that's an option. You can throw it up on like GitHub releases. You can publish through any pipelines. In some ways, you just need a place to store the thing and some way to then point to said stored thing, and then all the security parts to ensure that
Hmm.
none of that is getting intercepted. So writing that really generically is difficult. And I suspect that's part of why people have just not filled that in.
Yeah.
It's convenient that Crab Nebula is a partner because we can also just point to some of the work that they've done. And they've are working towards that out of the box approach.
Yeah, and I can really say Crab Nebula Cloud for anyone who needs to ship an updater for their app. It was very quick and easy to set up. I sat for several hours for Tauri by Simon, making a Tauri version of that, just because like you can't have a Tauri website and then not make a Tauri app out of it. But then I sat for several hours dealing with GitHub issues that I just could not figure out because they were like personal access token related. I gave it an admin token with everything, still didn't allow me to do stuff. So GitHub was breaking down on all kinds of ways. And the solution in the end was Daniel basically saying, "Oh, hey Simon, do you want to be one of the beta testers for Crab Nebula Cloud?" And I was like, "Yay! I'll
Please
do
do it for
that
me."
immediately." Yes. So I got on board with that, and it was really great. Can recommend. Very fairly priced as well.
Just lost my terminal. Yeah, I've done a couple apps in there, at least just testing it out, and that experience is just so much better than trying to set it up yourself. But also, there's going to be places and requirements that might not allow you to do that, and that's where other documentation would be nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like we said, it's hard to write generic stuff because you're always going to have to rely on something. You're probably going to want to build it in some system. So now you're writing docs for GitHub, or you're writing docs for GitLab, or GitHub Enterprise, or Jenkins,
Yep.
and now you're basically like the matrix of potential documentation of all these things just explodes.
Yeah. One thing we did to sort of deal with that was introducing the learn section, where you can make more like guided little labs for people.
Like
And there
snippets.
it's easier than that. Yeah, it's easier there to develop something where you don't have to think of it as, oh, I'm developing first a generic version and then I have to support every other solution. Here you can just like, oh no, I want to show off how to make a splash screen, and I'm going to use some third party libraries to do it. So it's more of a guided experience here where you can learn how to use Tauri in a practical setting. So
That might
that's
be
something
an
that could be fun for people to do.
the if I wonder if we can do that for because I feel like that sentiment is that feels pretty typical to see where people are struggling with Updater or publishing the app. I think the publishing
Yeah, and
part of it is going to be hard, like dealing with the certs and getting the certs. But if we have little guides to do like pieces of that, that might.
yeah, or the labs are intended to be like from start to finish. So you start by creating the app and then guide a person through all the steps. So if we make an updater one, we could do a GitHub updater one where, initiate your project, change these settings, go on GitHub, and they should be fairly targeted at that, but they should also be
Mm-hmm.
guided from start to finish. So if someone hops in and is like, oh, how do I use the updater? Well, we'll actually guide you through the full steps of getting everything up and running with specific topics like that. And there will be copy paste snippets available in it as well. If you like, the splash screen lab currently is the most fleshed out one. It's the only one that we've finished so far.
Okay.
But it has a pretty nice structure, I feel, and
Oh, that's
solution
neat.
with
Yeah,
yeah,
the show and hide solution. It's neat.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think long-winded answer. That's probably going to end up being how it makes sense to talk about the updater.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's just that's always been a hard thing to determine the best way to write docs for.
yeah.
So again, feel free to stop by and drop some docs if you think it's gonna be helpful. Paul says you did a learning thing with Svelte from V1 Docs. Really nice entry point. Yeah, the and I think we made it a little bit like we brought it a little bit more forward or front and center where we have that in the quick start we have front end configurations. Um, and I think that's sort of bouncing off that idea where somebody might say, well, I know it's Svelte. How can I get started quickly with it? Run the create Tauri app thing, get some pieces in there, tweak a config if you need to, um, and then hopefully you're off to the races. All right, I think I'm gonna go look at the stored, see if I can update on that a little bit.
Do it. I wonder what else I can do in some more general maintenance stuff. I mean, I have some stuff to review. Guess I'll do that.
And feel free to keep asking questions, y'all, if you have them.
Yeah, or just demand that we look at your specific issue right away, because we're here anyway. At least am more than willing to sit and justify why the docs I've written are acceptable and not total garbage, as some people make me feel sometimes.
Docs are hard. It's
Yeah,
it's a whole nother skill set. There's
yeah,
so
it
much
really is.
dependent on communication, and now we're talking about it's not just communication with the team. We know with somebody that you have worked with.
Yeah,
It's like anybody from any, and like the people that we're serving too are. You could come in and only know JavaScript, or come in and only have done Rust, or have done neither. um,
yeah,
it's very difficult to get that balance right.
Yeah.
Actually, real quick question: the permissions, are we generating those? I don't remember if we're generating the permission table in the doc sections.
I want to say that currently we manually update them, but we have an issue related to getting those generated. But
Okay.
we have a bit of an issue with how do we do that best? Because we still need to have all of this manually written content first. So
Yeah.
one option would be generating it and then appending it in CI, I guess. That's pretty much the only solution I can think of off the top of my head.
Can you do? I don't remember if Astra allows you to like include files or include snippets. We might be able to do a thing where we, because it's going to be a standard table, right? We're effectively taking what could be like a blob of JSON and converting it into something that's human readable or more
Yep.
human readable. We could potentially jump off of that idea and basically make like a component that just renders in, I say just, but that takes that JSON and renders it as a table effectively.
Yeah, it's basically what we do in the config builder that we
Okay.
have. It's the only real difference is that when we do it with the permissions, we would have to append it to existing pages, and making sure that that is stable and doesn't break every 5 minutes. That's kind of the issue right now. And also, someone has to feel motivated to actually push that across the finish line. That's another issue.
Yeah, that's true. Daniel mentioned bounties for docs. So I don't know that we've gotten to the point where we're pulling the trigger on it, but we've internally discussed using some of the funds that we've received from folks and from corporations to put bounties on specific pieces of documentation or features that we want to see much more attention on. So that if that's something that seems interesting, keep poking us and we'll push that through. Have we gotten to the point where we're?
Have you checked in the VIP channel? We have a thread for the bounty program where we've done some discussion. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah, we haven't actually like made it live yet though, right?
No, it's not live yet. So like
Okay.
we haven't. You are correct in that we haven't made a thing of it yet, but we're like
Coming
planning
down
it
the
out.
line.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, that's why we have in the documentation. I've already made a bounties board for it where we're kind of trying to figure out which issues are candidates for being bountied.
Paul says soon, TM. Yes. Yeah, it's Daniel says it's not a formal decision, but it seems like the structure's there and could work. You said you have a board for it, bounties. So if you go
Yep.
to the Tauri docs, and I suppose I can do that. We'll do the full walkthrough. So if you go to, oh, that's not the docs I wanted. That's not the docs I'm looking for. Internet points if you catch that reference. So if you go to the Tauri docs page, there's the projects tab and then documentation. And then in that, this is what projects V2 is, I think what GitHub has dubbed it. There's a tab
Yep.
for brownies.
And again, no one should read this and think that, oh, if I work on this, I will get bounties. This is just early planning stages of what might be bountied. And currently, it's been basically just is no one working on it currently? Is it targeting version 2 because it's a blocker? and is it not translation related? Because I don't consider translations ever to be a blocking thing, and that's also something worth noting for anyone that wants to contribute. Translations are always going to be a community effort. I don't oppose translations by any means. I want them, but I also don't make much of an effort to actually make them. That's more of a community effort. So translations are never going to be bountied. However, all of the blockers are definitely candidates for being in bounties.
I think something to be said too along those lines. If you're interested in getting more involved, we do have specifically a part of the working group that focuses on docs, of which Simon is. You're mostly heading it now, officially or unofficially. I don't know if we've actually made any of it officially.
We haven't made any official statement, but let's just say I am the unofficial dictator of the documentation.
So we've set up hopefully a system that we're very slowly rolling out, where we have teams, and each of the teams sort of have leads. So I ideally want more than one lead if we have the folks that are willing to do it. So if you're interested in helping to push forward translations in a bigger way than what we've previously supported, that's going to be a great avenue to do that. Because part of the reason that we have only really been able to give English the official support is it's a bandwidth issue. So the more folks that we have involved, particularly that are interested in seeing specific translations pushed forward, that would be one of the ways to go about it.
Yeah, and we're always limited bandwidth wise based on just what languages do we know, and if anyone is like, oh, but Chinese is getting a lot of updates. Yeah, we have a guy in the working group that's been super helpful, DK Liao. He has been. I keep just throwing Chinese translation issues at him, and he, like a champ, just keeps fixing those. So if anyone likes Chinese translations, thank DK Liao. I think he's done every single PR review for the Chinese translations.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to learn a lot more Spanish before I can actually do technical talks. I know very little Spanish. Part of what I've learned when when I've been in Spanish speaking places.
Yeah.
Part of what I've learned from my daughter, and then I guess I know a little bit of German, but I'm rusty in my German, so I'm not able to write technical documentation for any of those languages for sure.
Yeah, most of my German comes from listening to Rammstein, and I don't know if that counts as technical documentation exactly.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna see if I can knock out some work on the store plugin. So the state management is, and hopefully it's not going to be too disruptive, but I'm going to talk out loud a little bit while I'm doing it. The state management section that we have is currently a little bit more Rust targeted, but I'm thinking it makes sense to evolve it a little bit into generic state management, but then point to places where you'd learn more. So like if you want to do state and handle it in this way, you'd actually go to the store guides, and that would be an option of apart from the state that we've defined as directly within Tauri.
That's something that I haven't even considered before. Like, there's JavaScript users out there,
and like that comes back to the people coming into the project and reading the docs.
Yeah.
When you say state, that is such an overloaded term. We probably have we've got ephemeral state like within the web view. We've got local storage in the web view, which is a little bit more sticky but can still go away. Then we've got state on the Rust side, Does that state management and the docs, um, does is that persistent? If you close the app and reopen it, does that stick
No,
around? Okay.
it can be made to do that, but no, but by default it's not.
Got it. So then, in some ways, local storage in the web view and that state in the Rust side of things is functionally equivalent. And then you could use the store plugin, which then takes some of that state and dumps it into just a file that you can recover on load or on demand.
Yep.
Um, and then I guess from there you start to evolve into the talk directly to some sort of more databasey thing.
Yeah.
Or an API that then has databasey thing behind it.
Yeah, I mean, there's this SQL plugin, for example, where you can have like SQLite and stuff like that, or straight up MySQL and stuff like that. So.
Yep.
And
Yes,
you always
Chris.
have the full Rust ecosystem at your side. So I mean, you can do literally whatever you want. Yeah, those are the kind of solutions we have set up for Tauri. That's sort
So
of
I
yeah.
think that would probably be in that state documentation. We could sort of document then the Rust ephemeral or
Yeah.
Rust
And I want to
slightly
get
sticky state, and then the JavaScript slightly sticky state.
yeah.
And then
I,
from there, point to if you need more or less than that, then go to these places.
yeah. I'm considering whether we should make a state management full subcategory and then list different types of state maybe, or different places where you can do it, so we have separate articles maybe for it.
I so like the store plugin feels the store plugin under the guides feels good to me.
Mm.
You're either going to find it on your own, but I think if we make that state management sort of a top level thing where people are like, how do I do state, or I want to do state,
Yeah.
if we can make that the thing that people land on and then just point to places where they can find out more,
Yeah.
I think that's probably going to be the best. And we can do self-referential stuff too. So we can, as I'm writing the store, I can also point back to the state and say, if this isn't the state that you want, see this article for more information on options.
Yeah. So let's see. So I'm just gonna. This is the. I sent in the stage chat the preview for the state management that Rigidity wrote, and yeah, it's very heavily Rust.
Mm-hmm.
How because I think that all of this information is good and we need it somewhere.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it makes
but
sense
we need
to
yeah.
like this is very Tauri specific, right?
Yeah.
I think it's this is a good place for it. But I think additionally, if we point to if you want to handle more of this in JavaScript, in general, you can use local storage, and it's in some ways equivalent to what we have here.
I actually want to steer people away from using local storage.
Yeah, I mean,
because
like the docs that we have here sort of has the same, in some ways, the same trade-offs, right? Local storage is a little bit more sticky, but it's a little bit more sticky in a gotcha kind of way.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, if you're using, well, yeah, for vanilla JS, yeah, local storage works. Because I'm just thinking, like, if you're using something framework specific, you have other stores and stuff like that. But that people will know that if they use those frameworks. So,
and I think that's kind of where we point and point to those like deviations where, you know, we've got a spectrum of state, and where does this thing that you know exist on that spectrum, and how sticky do you need that storage to be? Because like you could theoretically implement both local storage and the Rust state and in the same app, and it can potentially make sense based on the use cases.
yeah.
You've heard people saying to avoid. Paul says you've been hearing people say to avoid this SQL plugin when working with SQLite. Is this a kind of thing that has value to try to help make it work well? I'm actually curious why they say that. I think some of it too is like the implementation and what you're looking to get out of it. Um,
I think the main people that have been complaining about it have been the people that want to use it in the Rust end,
mm,
where the solution really in the Rust end is
use it
just use the
directly.
underlying crate. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because you have SQLX that it's basically just a high level interface for SQLX. That's
Okay.
really all it is. So it's like, why would we sit and develop the SQL plugin to be fully Rust, like nice
There's
to use in the Rust end when you have the underlying crate directly?
yeah, like there's not a great value in trying to put a wrapper around it.
Yeah. So I can agree with Paul about that. If you're in the Rust end, yeah, it's probably not the nicest. We do try to make sure that plugins work to some degree at least, but yeah, it's if it's not nice to use for people, then it's probably because they're in the Rust end. In the JavaScript end, I don't see any issues with it.
Mm-hmm. So Flapili says local storage, and in the Discord chat says local storage can make sense if we have a progressive app. Um, yeah, so
Yeah,
you can use it as a way or like a temporary storage to sync with the Tauri backend. Yeah,
yeah, or if you're here, I think it's specifically when you have the web app version as well. So you're both targeting Tauri and non-Tauri.
true. Yeah,
Then
if you're already implementing it, it doesn't make sense to unimplement it if it's providing value. I think in general, local storage is probably one of the more common ways to do sort of like a cache type of architecture, and that
yeah,
would still make sense in Tori potentially, depending on what you're loading.
yeah. The main reason I try to steer people away from it is because like the majority of people expect it to be persistent, because that's what they're expecting from the website, and but it's less persistent in Tauri. There are some events that can happen that wipe it without warning. We had that happen when we went from HTTP to HTTPS in
Mm,
early version 2. We went back to HTTP. I don't remember the reasoning for all of these changes, but when the URL changed, that's one of the events that causes the local storage to be wiped.
yeah.
And we actually had some people reach out to us and basically said, "Oh my God, our app is broken." And then we're like, "Oh, well, yeah, you used local storage. We told you not to."
Yeah. The so it sounds like that's something that we need to sort of dig into and point to the gotchas and benefits of using one versus the other. I think another thing
Yeah,
too that might push you more towards Rust or otherwise not using local storage is that I think that gets more complicated if you're doing more multi-window.
yeah,
Um,
for
the
sure.
does that local do you know if that local storage persists across the windows? I don't know that I've ever
Uh,
tried it actually.
oh God, there was some weird behavior there. I don't
And
remember. I don't remember. I would have to set up a test for that. Because
so like
uh,
to describe the thing that I'm put a little bit more words to the telepathy we have going on.
yeah,
um, when you are working in uh, WebView number one and you save something to local storage, um, if even if you're using sort of as like a cache or a way to pull data from when the view first loads, that works fine for that web view. But as soon as you
yeah,
go to open up a thing in web view number two, um, if you're pulling
yeah.
that
One,
from local storage, then you start to get like weird potential sync issues. Because if
yeah,
they're both trying to write to the same thing, then you need to like, if Yeah, it's the same. Like if you've ever looked into local first apps and trying to sync like SQLite, um, CRDTs, all those buzzwords, you start to run into some of those same considerations where you need to then, if web view number 2 updates local storage, then web view number 1 needs to then be aware of that. And that's another reason to start to push those type of things into the Rust side of your implementation, because you can do queries to Rust and you can store that state in Rust in a similar ephemeral way if that's what you want, and then all the web views can depend on that. The downside of that, though, is that now you're doing that data over the wire, so it's less cachy than if you had it directly in the web view. Yeah, that happens in Daniel says that happens in Electron too with multiple windows. Local storage propagation will be slow and potentially desync. Yeah, I think that's probably, in my mind, that's probably the biggest reason to not default to using local storage. Are you trying it out right now?
Yeah, just seeing when it actually does the synchronization. A version 1 project, of course.
Do we know if there's any like additional events or anything that is of the things that purge local storage? Is it the same as if it was in a browser? Is it just that those events tend to hit differently or at different times than you might expect from a web browser?
I mean, it is the same events as a web browser, where some of them are, of course, harder to have be hit since it uses a separate caching location from the browser and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
there are events such as the URL change that will trigger it to be recognized as a completely new website.
Yeah,
Um,
and like
there's also
that's less likely if you were working in a web app, because you kind of
yeah,
you get your URL and you just,
yeah,
it's what it is.
yeah, and there's also some cleaners, I think, that target these kinds of cached folders, like where it stores the data and whatnot, that might end up removing it as well.
Okay. Plugin. So the store plugin is strictly just a key value store, and it's one of the ways to handle state in your application. So if I should actually run the docs. It's within Starlight, it's marked on links to go to other pages, right? Or is there something fancier than that?
One more time. Markdown goes to other pages.
Markdown goes to other pages. That's how you'd write links to other pages.
You write the stub to it, so just like slash. There's no fancy syntax. It's just slash and then the path to the file. Basically,
Ah,
that's the stub.
path to the file. Okay.
Oh no.
What's that?
Someone in Create Tauri app has ruined my life. Oh my god! No, they've put cargo as the first entry. That now I can't spam click enter to get a PNPM vanilla template. God damn it! Ah,
You can use the options, can't you?
you can, but that's longer to write. God damn it! Wait, this looks broken. What's going on here?
All right, there we go. Possible dynamic routes being matched. Interesting. I was just navigating and like figured out.
What the hell?
So save. Good. All right. So if we point to the file, see the state manage out a guide. Information on additional options.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay, no one has broken anything. It's just my local installation. That's a bit Linux. I love it. Jesus Christ. Okay, someone gets to live another day.
So you just reference the, because this how you do it? That doesn't seem to be working.
1 second. Things are broke. Let's see. No, you reference it as an absolute path. So just slash.
Is it from the root of the content?
Yeah, or from the root of the docs folder. That's a weird Astro thing. That's why it's like source content docs. So it's weird, but
Do you refer to the actual? Do you put the extension on it?
you should not put the extension in it. But you might have to put the trailing slash. That keeps being a weird. No, right. Locally, it should work without the trailing slash, but when it's live, Netlify does that weird thing, right? Then
That's actually a good question. Do we care if we have trailing or pretty URLs?
personally, I don't care as long as something works. Basically, I tend to prefer not having trailing slashes for pages. It seems weird to have a trailing slash.
Okay.
The only reason we started doing it was because things got broken and we weren't sure exactly where it was, but probably a Netlify setting that I, at least at the time, didn't have access to changing.
We should be able to change that in. Do we have an Netlify toml in here? No, we don't.
No.
That.
In the public folder, we have some Netlify related configs, but there we have like headers and redirects. Those are Netlify related, but they're
Got it.
not actually config files.
Yep. Okay. There is an option for pretty URLs that we just need to turn on. Trailing slash. Okay. So we want to turn on pretty URLs?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that should be fine, probably. Maybe.
Famous last words.
Yeah, I think we might be breaking everything, but it's fine that we're breaking everything as long as it's what we want it to be, because I can sit and fix. Oh god, more link fixing. Yeah, I can sit and fix the links. It's fine. Enable it if we want prettier URLs. I'm all for it.
Okay, so when pretty URLs are enabled, it forwards paths like /about to /about/. No, pretty URLs is.
So it does it in the opposite direction of what we want it to do.
That is for the case of when it generates it with an index.html, I think. I don't remember how. I don't remember how Astro does the generation. Let's do a build real quick. Just build. Run build. All right. Where's this under? I'm doing it on the side because I don't want to. I want to docs. I don't know the Netlify site well enough to not accidentally click on something. Here, pretty URLs. Pretty URLs are enabled. Which means that. So we get, it's generating everything as index.html and using folders. Which means that static sites and single page apps and rewrites paths like, so that would be for like about.html. It would rewrite it to /about/. But we have everything as index.html.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like Netlify really wants it to be trailing slashes. Is that a best practice that I'm not familiar with?
I think it is. I don't think it really matters. But I think it's one of those things that was old internet decided based off of how things were created. Because it was basically like if you drop an index.html, it's serving like the URL ends up becoming basically like the folder name. So it was a
Yeah.
trailing slash because it's basically referring to the folder. So I don't think insofar as SEO or whatever it matters. I think it tends to be a preference, and it's just something you need to keep consistent. Because if you're
Mm.
swapping between them, then you get like SEO ranking for each with slash and
Mm.
without.
I see.
I think as far as I've dug into, and hopefully my data is not out of date, but
Mm.
that's what it used to be, or that's
Yeah.
the reason it came about. So we get everything as an HTML or as index.html.
Um,
So they should. Okay, Netlify normalizes URLs by removing the trailing slash, but not for internal rewrites. I don't think we're doing any internal rewrites.
no.
At least nothing that would affect those.
I see we have Vitor in the audience on the stage in Discord. If you're alive, Vitor, let me know. Do you want to join on the stage to talk about your PR for dynamic OG images? We can get that pushed in if we just, if you basically just update me on it. As far as I know, it's fine. Okay, that's fine then. It was just an idea I had. Um, this one is old. I remember this.
So I think. Hmm.
I can, if you want, Vitor, I can just fix the conflicts on my end, push it and merge it. Are you happy with the code, or and should I fix it, or do you want to take care of that and then we fix it? Mm. Where do we have? I'll just go.
So we have pretty URLs turned on, and I don't think it's actually going to make a difference either way for what it's generating. I think the default behavior is going to end up being trailing slash.
Hmm.
Um, and that seems like most of our links, at least in the dev server, are doing trailing slash. Oh.
Oh my god. Ubuntu? I right now.
Yeah, so it looks like everything is, for the most part, trailing slash, except on our blog post page.
I'm having to set up the GitHub CLI 1 second. I think we can just keep it the way it is.
We do need to fix that blog post one though, because on the live site, the if you go to the all posts on the blog tab, those links don't resolve.
Okay, just give me 1 second. I gotta login.
But that might be upstream. Like that might be something that
the
we need
best
to.
kind of issue.
Yeah, right. Because I don't think we have control over the all posts. At least last I remember looking.
Over which post?
The on the blog, if you go to all posts, these links point to the non-trailing slash, of which they don't then resolve.
I want to say we have control over that somehow. Were you the one that fixed the blog? I think so, right?
Yeah, I did the auto generate for recent
Yeah.
posts, but the like that all blog links
That's
post I think is a
that's the
generated one.
yep.
Like the
that
content itself is generated, right?
I want to say that if that's not working, then it should be because of a line. Wait, don't we have trade slash? Oh, we haven't configured that. Then I gotta check what the Starlight default for that is, because I'm pretty sure that that's the plugin or
That's a blog
extension,
plugin.
whatever from. Yeah, exactly, and it should be going off of what the Astro config for trailing slashes is, but I gotta check what the default then is. Astro slash. So I think we might just have to configure it so that it actually uses trailing slashes, like forces it, and that should be fixed. Yeah, by default, Astro ignores it. So I guess we'll do. I guess we'll try to do it as always and hope that the blog adapts accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't, then
You're trying to on your hand, right? Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Because I think that was the last piece that wasn't working, as far as like obvious broken links. So is that so? I think part of what was confusing is in the dev server it worked, but once you deployed it, it didn't.
That
But does
looks
that
like it made it.
does when you click on one of the links from all posted, it has the trailing slash then?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that I think is all we need then for that fix.
I'll just use my.
Cool. Digression done.
Admin. Yeah. Let's see. I didn't have anything else in this one. No,
If you want to PR it too, I can thumbs.
Nah. GPG signing. Yeah, I'm too cool for PRs. Okay. Push. Come on. Eh? Oh wait. Commit it first. There we go. Okay. There we go.
Cool.
Only check if it's okay to override on the hand. Gonna make me actually read this. Starting to remember why I didn't merge this yet.
Which one?
The
Oh, the
dynamic
OG.
OG image, yeah.
How are they doing
Mostly
it?
because it's mostly because I had to sit down and actually understand some of this stuff, like from more of a best practices point of view. Like we're creating a page here, a dynamic page that fetches all pages, returns a response, an empty response. Why do we do that? Like, it's not the average, just read code and merge it.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually like using Astro voodoo magic that I am not familiar with.
Here we go. Dynamic OG images. Astro OG canvas. Neat. Okay. Utils. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, it's just for the social previews when you like link to different pages.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Vitor is the one that has done this one. Another big name in the documentation scene.
So we're adding a head component, which then sets the OG image for each. Yeah, this page is 0, 0. I'm definitely curious what.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I'm like, why? This seems weird.
Oh.
If you're listening, Vitor, you are confusing us with this 0, 0 page.
I mean, I could totally see the hacky thing. Great. Oh, that link, the first link right above it, the commit is literally 0, 0 hack. it's something that they did in the Astrodocs. Yeah, you link the source. Yep.
Oh my god.
It might be just a way to trigger it. So pages open graph. So we get a URL, or we get a page for each open graph that then returns an image. So if we run this, we will build and generate images. Those images will then be dropped in a folder which the server should be able to return as an object through the head. So this docs.ts is basically generating an image for each. As a side note, it would be nice to like it would be nice to cache some of that work, but that's going to be a whole other thing.
Well, since this is all statically generated anyway, so it's just a one-time issue. Like it's fine. It's not
I mean, it's gonna
necessary.
generate it every time you yeah, Chris is 0, 0 hack to make it work in Starlight. It's gonna make it or it's gonna generate it every time you run the build, right? Oh, OG images are cached. Yeah, okay. So I guess there's two pieces of that. OG images are cached by OG Canvas, and that would be between builds, right? We would also need to make sure to that is cached in Netlify too. So in the Netlify build, we would also want to cache that, which I'm guessing that's something we might need to like toggle on.
But does this really take that long to generate extra? Like,
images are slow. Okay, it stays in node modules at Astro. That yeah, I think it might cache that by default, so we might be fine. If we look at,
we're already at the multiple minutes. I think it takes like 10 minutes or something to rebuild the production site or something like that. So
yeah,
because I just built it quickly here, and it doesn't look like it's taking that long, although it apparently is giving errors, which is the following important but cannot be resolved. Azure OG Canvas. Did you not add OG Canvas?
It's not a huge difference though, yeah. I mean, so end of last year, we were saying it was a minute-long increase. I don't think that's a big deal. I mean, eventually it might become a big deal, but if it's dumping it in node modules, I think Netlify caches that. So we might. Wow, you do. Nice job. all the questions. I should have just read your PR. Yeah, so it adds a little bit of time, but not a big chunk. And I think with it, I'm pretty sure that should cache, not only between runs within the same PR, but I think across PRs too. I'm pretty sure it caches the node modules pretty well. So cool. So I think basically that to put words to this hack, I think it's effectively touching all of these pages to trigger Astra to build them. Because others, there's no actual like reference to it. So there's nothing to trigger it to build and generate these things unless there's something, like without the hack, there's no entry point. Is probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, that's weird, but fair enough. Yeah, I'll see if I can't get this rebased and we can get it merged.
Do we have? I think the one thing that I would add here is if there's some tracking issue or something that we can point to as a way to know when that we'd be able to remove the hack. I think that would be my one suggestion.
Yeah.
I don't see anything though.
Well, I mean, there's the link in the 00 page.
Yeah, but that just points to something that's been merged. If they've got a like open issue or something that like a tracking issue for this, it would be nice to point to that. Okay, so they're using Vercel. That is not going to be terribly. Say check the Astra.config and just set the head component override. Oh. Got it. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything though that with Astra that we'd be able to point to. Okay, I'm gonna add my own suggestion. If we can't find an issue, can we open one, two? We open one to point, so we know when this hack may be placed by. That would be my one suggestion.
Nice.
Oh, there's, yeah. Pretty nifty. I've been meaning to replace OG images on my my personal site, so thanks Vitor for including me into this. Okay, store. Let me finish this.
So many conflicts.
I think a lot of what the plugins with the work in progress is, it feels like a lot of them are, they need an improved description at the top, and that might be it that we need.
I think we also might in some cases want to add a little bit more copy paste snippets maybe. I haven't actually looked through all of the plugin pages, like in that level of detail at least. So we might actually be more done with them than what I think.
I've gone through a fair number of them, and other than maybe the file system one, I think a lot of them have decent examples.
Yeah. Right, there's also a little bit of alignment between them in terms of how we've structured things. In some of them, we've had a tab component that does like, here's the JavaScript version, here's the Rust version. In others, we have a new heading, which is like, here's the JavaScript version, and then there's the Rust version. So there's a little bit of alignment there to be done with the structuring. But yeah, I'm jumping through them a little bit right now, and yeah, it looks like we have snippets.
I mean, a lot of them are very generic, but I don't know that you could get more like deeper examples. I don't know would be helpful.
Yeah. One thing that I am a little bit skeptical about is people realizing that at the top that it says API reference and then there's the JavaScript and Rust logos. I am skeptical to that people will realize that those are clickable.
Mm-hmm.
And that they actually are. Apparently, those are also broken links, which I just tried one and it's broken. So that's a good find. But they're supposed to link to the reference page for the plugin.
I think now that you say that, I didn't notice that immediately, but at some point I had noticed it and clicked on it and it was broken, and then I forgot about it again.
Because the thing is that these pages are basically like, here's how you set it up, and here's some quick snippets on getting you up and running quickly, like a basic quick start.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the API reference at the top, but some of these plugins people will need longer
Like you want to go to the API
articles.
reference for it. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to go to the API reference, and you want to have maybe even just more examples. Like the updater is getting pretty long right now, just to have a little bit of that type of content. And I'm not sure if the right approach is to just have everything in a
Would you
huge page.
would you qualify the plugins pages as? I think in my mind they are the intent is to allow somebody to quickly determine if this is a plugin that they want to use.
Yeah.
And if we target the content at that, and then the um, like a snippet of code is helpful because that helps. That might be quicker to read than reading 20 paragraphs.
Yeah.
But that might give you like a single snippet or a couple snippets and some reasoning on why you might want to use this or not might be sufficient for many of these, because I think we're going to want to have API documents or an API reference, and it doesn't make sense to reduplicate like all of that. So
Yeah.
as long as you can click on the thing and know if you want to use it or not, that might be enough. And I guess in some ways the permissions. Do we need the permissions table?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess. Well, so what I was bandering about in my head was, does it make sense to have the permissions table in the API reference? But that might be one of those things that's probably worth having in both spots.
Yeah. Probably.
Because especially when you get into like JavaScript, or excuse me, when you get into Android or iOS, the permissions affect your choices a little bit more, I feel like.
Yeah. Um, hmm. Only having it in the references page would simplify things, because we already generate that, so that would be a relatively minor update to the existing generator. Whereas if we push it into both locations, then we have to look at how we can reliably um, push those, like generate those tables at the bottom of each plugin page, which is the main reason why I would opt potentially for only having them in the references pages in that case.
There's
But
a
they
P.
are very important for V2.
Yeah. Viter says there's a PR for permission table.
Do we actually have that up? That's okay. That was not linked to that. That's the wrong repository.
Yeah, like
That's the
I
right
think it makes
repository.
sense to, regardless, to have the permissions table in the API reference, right? So the question would just be what value do we have in having permissions listed within the each plugin page too?
Vitor, why is this in draft? You keep all your coolest stuff in draft for too long.
To be fair, you did say open them up and draft right away. Features got it's on the ball. Um,
Because yeah, now there's a lot of conflicts in this one, so we'd have to fix it. But that's good to know. Where are that was is in progress as it should be. Well, then we'll wait for Vitor to fix that one.
is that so? Is that for each? Um, is that for each guide, or is that the API reference?
That's for the guides that the permission PR is for.
Guides. Okay, so it's generating those for the guides.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can
lost you again. maybe a good amount of lost.
I seem to
Oh,
be on
oh,
air again.
oh, there we go. Okay. I was about to unmute you in Discord. I'm like, maybe Discord is still okay.
Did I disappear on Discord as well?
I've got you muted on Discord, so I didn't see you leave,
Oh,
and you're still sharing on
okay.
Discord. So I think you might have been fine on Discord still.
Okay, because I'm trying to figure out when or why this freaking network issues happened for me. Yeah. Anyway, where were we? All right, we can't use it the permission component because we generate the reference pages as markdown pages instead of MDX. We need them in MDX if we're gonna use components in them, which I want to do, but that ended up causing massive issues with formatting. Things were being interpreted as templates for stuff by MDX when it's pulled from the schemas and whatnot. So there was a substantial amount of fixing that needed to be done in order to get those to be more MDX instead of Markdown.
Okay.
But we could, of course, update the generator itself to directly add so we don't need the component, but that PR wouldn't give us that ability. Ooh. Oh God, what the hell is this?
Well, I was kind of expecting to write more for the store plugin, but I've kind of settled on just updating the description.
Hmm?
One of the other things too, it potentially could be worthwhile to have, you know how we have tabs for JavaScript and Rust? It might be worthwhile doing a JavaScript with bundler, JavaScript without.
One second.
Because the routing and like pulling in the right references when you have globals on isn't immediately obvious.
Can you?
Yes, but I will wait until you get back. Has anybody else run into that? I've seen a few folks be like, I want to do a thing with Vanilla.js and it seems neat in Tauri. How do I do it? None of the docs actually tell me how to do it. Hi, Kitty. Coming up to say hi.
Okay, looks like I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thank
Kitty,
you.
Kitty joined us. Say hi. Nope. Grumpy. Yeah. So all of our examples presume that you're doing an import and doing it. You have like a bundler installed and you're doing an import statement.
Yep.
Nothing. Like I don't even think there's anything in that. Like maybe there's something in the quick guides. Do we have a vanilla JS section? I don't think we have that anymore. Do we?
We should have a quick start front-end configuration Vite, but it's empty. So
I mean, Vita is still a bundler though. Like there's no
yeah,
vanilla JS.
yeah. Well, we kind of have it in the overview page, sort of with a generic checklist. But the thing is that we're kind of wanting to get people to not do vanilla JS as much as possible.
Is there a reasoning for it?
Yes, that it's a bad idea for basically everyone always.
Okay.
So it's basically like when you have a web developer come into Tauri, none of them pick not having a framework because they're web developers. They have their favorite framework. But then you have Rust developers that jump into it and they love being low level and they think they're making the right choice or the cooler choice by doing vanilla JS. But they're actually shooting themselves in the foot because they're working hard for months on their application only to be told, oh, yeah, I have no idea how to help you, but I need help with my project. Yeah, but you've developed your own micro framework, so I
Yeah.
can't help you because I have to spend hours of time into just understanding your setup just to provide help for you. So, like at all levels, if you're a beginner, you don't want to use vanilla because you want to be able to get help. Because if you use vanilla in your project, then if you come into Discord, I'm pretty much just gonna tune out because it's too much work. I can't provide support for vanilla projects. And
So it's more of
if you're
a like a
proficient, yeah,
pointing them to the right happy path or the happy path that
yes,
makes our lives easier.
yeah. If they're advanced enough to use vanilla JS, then they're advanced enough to know how to do it. That's kind of the reasoning here.
Okay.
Because and no matter what you are, it's still the bad choice, no matter who you are, to use vanilla JS. But if you're advanced enough to know how to do it, then I mean, I guess you can do it. But I really don't like giving people the idea that it's a good thing to do. We can add something. I can be convinced into it, but if I get to choose, I want to make sure that we get as few people as possible in Tauri asking for support for their vanilla JS project.
Yeah. I guess I don't feel a strong need to have a separate vanilla JS and front end configuration.
Hmm.
Because I feel like front end configuration it's targeted for people doing the happy path and
Yeah,
might not be familiar with one or they might not be terribly front end focused or they might not have a great background in Rust.
yeah. And frankly, if they go for the completely without a bundler, then they can't do imports for the API. Uh, but not only that, they can't do imports for all the plugins that they use. So it's like, what are you gonna do in version 2 without using a bundler?
Um, most of the official plugins publish the IFI. So if you add it as a plugin in the list, it'll show up in your global object.
Hmm,
Um,
I guess.
but I mean, I definitely understand the reasoning. Maybe the
Yeah.
maybe the way to work within those confines is that in the plugin pages, if we, in our JavaScript example, we have import statement. Maybe if we just put a comment below that says it's also available on the window object with globals installed through this path.
Yeah,
Maybe that
we
would
can do
be
that.
like, because if you're looking at this and you're going like, how do I use this? You'll know that if you have globals installed and you know why you did it, it's just giving you the quick way to, the piece I can copy and paste and use.
The only thing that I have, like the argument against it, is related to how prone people are to copy paste without even reading the code that they pasted. So even if it's the second line with a comment stating this is why we have this line, there's tons of people that don't read that comment.
I would leave the import statement commented out too. So have a
So we'd have both of them commented out.
I would do something like, here I can I've got it open here. I would say, where's the example here? So I would say with I don't remember what the argument is, but with globals installed, use it would be what I guess you still can use import statements. So it'd be import store.
I don't think that syntax works, does it? Or maybe I'm wrong, but the syntax I see the most is like constant store equals, and then
I think that should work too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think import statements are supported in all the browsers now that we would work with. I'm maybe not Linux. I don't know what the state of Linux is with that, but I'm pretty certain it works on both Windows and actually I can do I don't have it installed in that one. No, I don't have it running anymore. Okay, well, we'll have to try it in a second, but it's what import Tauri. I think it's something like, it would be something like this. Welcome back.
No, thank you.
I think it's something like this. I can check it real quick though.
That looks like what I was thinking of as well.
What? I had another terminal open, but it like disappeared on me. But it's still running in the background because my to-do thing is working, kind of. Thanks for stopping by, Paul. Appreciate the questions. Oh, actually, you know what? I can do the reason I know this off the top of my head is was it last week? Last week we got if he's working. I spun up a plugin for this little app that we've been playing with on and off, and we spun up a plugin for it. Just a local plugin, and we got the IFE working and injected into every window. So I think I should be able to do this. And then we can look at the window. Yep. Okay. So this is how I was importing it in a script tag.
Yeah. Yep, that looks like what I was thinking of.
But let's see, const. Right. Oh, I guess I'll just use const. So what's the pattern for that, I guess, is probably the question. So it's Tauri plugin OS. Yep, so I think this will work. I guess that's probably it that we would need for this Tor plugin. Description and note on the import statement.
I think that looks fine. I think we've done that in the V1 docs as well somewhere.
Okay.
Like that type of commenting version.
Yeah, I think that's because then we're not specifically saying, you know, in no way are we implying recommendation that you should use this or go with Vanilla.js. That I think that makes sense to me.
Yep.
All right, I'm actually kind of okay with this. I'm gonna push this up.
Do it.
The like submodule stuff here is kind of wicked. All right. Okay. How long are you feeling like you want to go? We've been going for a little over 2 hours, so
I'm up for however long you feel like doing this. We don't do this often, so I'm.
and to be fair too, I'm also down to do it again. I think we might need a few of these to help push things through.
Yeah.
Just making sure I don't have any work messages I need to follow up with immediately. Okay. I can maybe go for hour longer, maybe.
Sure.
If you can knock out a few more things. Anybody else have any questions? I'm in the middle or in between things. You're working on rebasing OG,
Yeah,
the OG images. Okay.
Yeah, nearly done. Where's my fucking git repair? How would I enable that?
All right. What else could we?
There we go.
We haven't started a system tray one. I haven't seen anything for that. I think I'll end up spinning up a new doc for the system tray. But there's going to be a lot that goes into that, so I don't think I'm going to do that now.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a good thing for us to add, because I know there's a lot of projects that that use that for as their primary like entry point or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's probably like 3 or 4 plugins that I feel like if you're doing anything system tray makes sense to use. So we ended up on stream, we spun up a template to and we did it like as much JavaScript as you could and as much Rust as you could. So 2 implementations basically, and you kind of pick whichever one you want to roll with. And it's got a system tray implemented, global shortcuts, notifications. I think those are the big 3 ones. And then in this separate app that we then cloned off of that, I added the store plugin.
There we go. Okay, this should be rebased now.
think I might actually just go through and add might have to like spin up a separate app to test it out real quick, but I think I might add those import statements to everything real quick.
Okay.
For vanilla. I found one. So Stronghold has got the usage from JavaScript, usage from Rust. So those are the ones that we want to. Are we preferring the tabs for JavaScript versus Rust?
Well, I think it looks neater when it's in tabs, just because I hate when pages get too vertical, like
Mm-hmm.
when they're too long. I prefer switching between tabs, but it's one of those design issues that yeah, I'm not supposed to make design decisions.
I'm
Lorenzo laughed at me when I wanted to add nested tabs for stuff. That was apparently a big no-no.
yeah, yeah, I get that. I get that feeling. Um, I tend to agree though with the organizing the Rust versus JavaScript though. It feels because it's not like you're skipping over a section because you don't want to deal with it now. I'm using one or the other, so like it's a hard branch.
Yeah.
Go. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna write a bunch of import statements here. It's just gonna be the plugins really that wouldn't need that, right? Anything in the docs/plugin.
Yeah,
Do
pretty
we?
much.
Because all of our other docs are more of a learn how to do this thing, so we wouldn't need to support it or show import from both.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's correct.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think that's correct. There's a lot of pages in the docs, hard to remember everything, but
Right.
yeah. I think currently we're at like 10,000 pages getting generated at least. Of course, a lot of those are reference pages, but still.
Yeah, those I guess in some ways too that shows the importance of allowing one to write docs in tandem with the code that you're writing.
Yeah. Vitor, how do you want to do this? If you're still around. I've fixed the PR now, but I need permission to push it to your repo.
People generally working off of forks
Yeah,
if they've got maintainer access still.
yeah. We generally work on forks. We I don't I don't want to like say that I use we so much or something, but it's like I always use a fork anyway because I prefer having the full contributor experience, because I feel like if I start using a setup that's based on me being a maintainer, then it's hard for me to discover workflow issues for people contributing.
Mm. Got it. Yeah, I tend to if I've got maintainer access, I'll push a branch directly. I've got enough forks in my life to I don't need more to deal with.
Doesn't look like you've allowed me to push back to your branch, Vitor. Yeah, you need to either you need to set your fork to like always allow maintainers to edit your stuff, or you need to invite me specifically. I should probably verify that this actually builds before I say that I've fixed it, because I might have broken it instead.
Yeah. So the file system, um,
Hmm?
that permission list, big, very big.
Yeah.
um, I think that's probably the thing that made me go, do we need this here?
Yeah, it is one of those where it's like it is so important in version 2 that people find these docs, so it doesn't hurt to have it in more places, but
Yeah. I mean, if it's generating, I feel less bad about it because it's,
yeah.
if they could get out of sync, then that would be frustrating for folks.
Yeah, and that's the issue we've had, having to manually update them. But as soon as we get Vitor's uh, permissions PR merged, we can get the generation going, and then
Mm-hmm.
all will be well.
Do we have, so the file system one's got, I think if we standardize on having um, that permission table at the bottom, I think I'm okay with it.
Mm.
But like the file system one, it's got there's a note on scopes that happens to be after that huge table. So like if you look at it,
Mm.
I mean it's in the sidebars, so but also I don't know how many people actually end up looking at the sidebar or otherwise missing it because they didn't scroll down far enough. But like that
Yeah.
scopes could probably be lifted up.
Let's see. Is the file system scope? Yeah.
More just from a like above the fold kind of thinking. Because like
Yeah.
once I hit those tables, I feel like the only reason I'm gonna want to look at the tables is if I'm looking for a specific scope permission or specific permission.
Yeah.
And in that case, I'm probably gonna do a Control F or Command F or whatever.
Probably. Though you would be surprised by how many people does not seem to know that Control F is a thing.
Oh really?
Yeah, there's a lot of people where you're like, you were on the right page. Like they'll link to the documentation page saying, I would expect the answer to be on this page, but it's right there. Did you not Control F search for anything? No? Okay.
It's funny how like depending on how you get into whatever industry, just the like when you did it or from what inroad you made, like it just that previous environment affects like your future use of things.
Yeah.
NFC is a stub. So we've got a bunch of like very Android iOS specific documentation.
Mm.
I'm imagining that those are all going to be. Oh, we're still expecting a V2 stable with mobile support as marked as stable, right?
Marked as stable. Yep, that's
So we need the
the goal.
docs. Docs are going to be are going to matter for it too.
Yep. And even if we wanted to push it as not being mobile stable, we would have to assume that people come to V2 expecting it to be stable, because
Yeah, kind of
that's
need the
kind of
docs
how
for
it's
it.
being pushed. Yeah,
Yeah.
we need to. Yeah. So.
Hey, Husam, good to see you stop by. This is I picked one of the tedious affairs.
Hmm.
Clicking through every doc and pasting in a command.
All right, that one was unfinished, and
Um, yeah, some of this like MDX syntax ends up making at least with my plugin, the syntax highlighting weird.
yeah, we've or I've had a lot of issues with highlighting with MDX. Might be worth checking your CPU utilization at some point if you're using the Astro plugin, by the way, because I noticed that for some reason the Astro plugin results in like stable like 70% usage of my CPU, and I do not know why. I actually have to uninstall it sometimes just to be able to do stuff.
I actually when I was doing that PR for the Astro stuff, I opened it up, I got in, started digging into the like the .astro files and whatnot. I'm like, why isn't this syntax highlighting? And it's because I did the same. At some point, I was writing some completely unrelated code to Astro, and I just had it globally enabled, and it was just like eating up the memory. Yeah, I mean, it self updates, so
Hmm?
it's. I mean, it shouldn't be that I was using an outdated version of it, right?
No, it's like it sounds so harsh to say something like it's poorly developed, but it really just seems to have some bug in it that
Yeah, yeah. There's
yeah,
something going on.
yeah. I have a preview for you to check. I sent it in the just what your opinion is on So this is a PR by Ammer for Android signing,
Okay.
and it's just he has like steps 1, 2, 3, but then there's a nested 1, 2, 3. Like it doesn't look very good
Okay. I've got
in my
one more
opinion.
document, then I'll open it up.
Yep.
Uh, our code blocks are different. Oh no. I was searching for JavaScript. I just saw some code blocks which said .j or backtick, 3 backticks, and then JS. So I can't just search for JavaScript, I guess.
We probably should align that throughout the docs.
Yeah. It might just be that one case. I can just roll it into this peer. Okay. All right. Click link. So there's the outermost 1, 2, 3, and then within each there's 1, 2. So there's like step, and then there's the bullet point 1, 2. Husam asked, why is the import const store for all of the... Oh, I need to go back and edit it. I had the comment, the first line of the comment is going to stay the same, and some of the structure of that's going to stay the same. So I went through and pasted it everywhere I need to update it, and then I'm going to go back and tweak it. So it shouldn't be, is the answer. I don't know. Honestly, when you described it, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like that. I don't feel as bad as I was expecting to about it.
Because it annoys me that there's like one style for the stepper, and then they have a completely different style. But
Is that just like the built-in rendering?
the sub one is the built-in one, and then the top level one is
Is like the
the
component
steps
one.
yeah, exactly.
What's
It's
interesting
not so
too
horrible that I wouldn't allow it to be merged. I'm just like, is it worth fixing before, or should we just on like should we ignore the visuals of this?
um what's interesting too is the whole first step is skip this step if you have it already.
Yeah.
Do we have any other like component that would kind of cover that use case? I mean, you've got the like.
We don't have a skip, but what we do have is if we set that up so it's correctly using a header instead, then we get it showing in the sidebar all the steps like 1, 2, 3 in the on this page. And what we usually do is 5, like header 5. We use that for the lists. So you can see that in the splash screen lab, for example, where we have each step in the actual navigation on the right side. So that's something we can do for it at least. But we don't have anything that's like click here to skip to the next step.
Yeah.
But we should probably make those header 5 and then maybe make that a like one of those asides, like a caution box instead. If you have like, so it's big and yellow. If you have an existing one. But I think we're gonna let this one be merged, and then we'll do a follow-up where I tinker with the appearances if it's just visual stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm fine with that. Because like some of this is whatever we decide here is going to be applicable to everything.
Yeah.
So it's deciding a pattern rather than
Yeah.
having them conform to one. Because I guess I could see just splitting this up into more steps too.
Yeah.
So we've got like 1.1, 1.2, but you could skip all of one potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would probably just say don't do bullet points and lift it up into separate steps, and then you can use the sidebar or otherwise inform them to skip to step number X or Y based on what they've completed.
Based on the contents, I would say that it's content-wise fine, and we can approve this to be merged, and then I'll do a follow-up PR where I tinker with structuring this better. That's something we have in the documentation as a rule, generally speaking, when people make PRs. As long as it's an improvement on what we already have, then it's valid to be merged.
Yeah, let's just roll with it.
Yeah. I just wish that his preview would work here after the merge. That was bad. Why was it failing?
Mm.
Oh my god.
What's that?
949 invalid links in 68 files. No. No.
What is that in your refactor?
No, it's in I updated Ammer's PR, like the preview I sent you. I updated that PR to against the dev branch, and so this is the latest deploy for that preview branch, which means that these are changes that have gotten into dev, which would be, of course, the trailing slash thing I pushed in earlier. God damn it. Because now we actually enforce it on the Astro side, which means that every single reference link is wrong. God damn. Then the question is, are these in upstream, or I think they might be in upstream. Or are they? No, these ones are internal links, I think.
All these underscores in the these window imports though is I realized I missed a trailing underscore. So it's underscore Tauri underscore plugin snake case, and then ends with 2 underscores. I only did
Yeah.
one trailing underscore.
Yeah, I always thought it was a little bit weird to have that pattern at all, but I'm assuming it's just clashing related. It's
Yeah, when you're tossing stuff on the window object, you don't really want to generic because it's always the best because it could just randomly break in the future.
yeah.
Satori. Window. Hussam said, I gotta say the naming between Rust.js and Kotlin is a little bit confusing sometimes. Do you mean like
Yeah.
the import statements and such? I'm assuming that's what you mean. Like that context switch in general is going to be a.
I'm guessing also just in general with the stuff like, oh, how should a constant be named in what language and stuff like that.
Yeah. Undo that. We don't want.
Oh, goody. Does this not support having trailing slashes? That would be bad. Or annoying at least.
Does what not?
So I'm looking at the JS API generator, which I think is what had the broken references be generated, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't see an option necessarily that allows us to set that, but I might just not have found it yet.
Got it. It would be kind of surprising if they didn't support it. That's kind of a.
Yeah.
I don't know. Static site generators all sort of. I feel like they define their own standards.
Yeah.
All right.
Doesn't look like they have an option for it.
So when it generates it, is it generating Markdown?
Yeah, it's what's it called? It's type doc. As far as I understand, at least, it's what generates it, and I don't see any options anywhere for.
Because by default, type doc generates HTML files. Are we using those HTML files, or are we using the HTML files, or are we using the plugin that converts it to Markdown as well?
Good question.
I guess we got to be converting
on
it. We got to be
type
converting
doc
it because
plugin
it's
Markdown.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I was say we got to be converting it because it's showing up in our with our sidebar and everything.
Yeah.
So that should be showing up as a page, right? So what is there? Well, you should be able to use the Astro config then for trailing slashes.
Well, the Astro config we have now set to always.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see anything in TypeDoc plugin Markdown or whatever for adding that trailing slash.
Well, if it's just making Markdown documents, then Astra should be handling it from there, which would then be applying the.
Well, when it generates the pages, we have them in, because this one actually generates them like so, and so it's these ones that are like. Do we have a broken link somewhere that I can check? Namespace, web view. Wait, no. Yeah. Oh, right, in the API. Namespace, view. So this is where it needs to be generated like that. Otherwise, the link validator will say it's wrong.
Wait, can you share that again? Sorry.
So when it generates these reference pages, right here is where we need slashes, like for all of these. Otherwise, the link validator in Starlight says no.
So that's under docs.
It gets generated if you run pnpm build
Got it.
something.
Oh, not dev. Build. Oh, it's a other command. Build references. Just replace MD by yeah. So what we're looking at is the code that we write in TypeScript has like doc blocks. When you run, I think technically it's JS doc, but when you run this package plugin type doc with the Markdown plugin, we're using the code, stripping out the examples in the doc that's written adjacent to it, and dumping it into Markdown documents. So that's
essentially, yeah,
being auto-generated effectively.
Yep.
At least generated in a way where after it's written, we can pull it out of the code.
Yep.
So where does it show up? Oh, is it generating it directly into the dist?
Yeah, directly in the source folder, it just creates Java Markdown files. So in JavaScript, references JavaScript, or reference JavaScript, singular.
That's under the JS API generator.
Oh, no, yeah, that's the one that generates it. Yeah. The output is in the actual source code.
Yep. So it's basically like hooking in and using the Astro pieces, but not actually using the full Astro build. It's not like a plugin.
Yeah, yeah. It is its own separate little CLI tool, basically, without any actual connection to Astro, and then Astro builds after this is run, which is probably not the way that we should have made it, but someone made it a long time ago, and I want to say it was Lorenzo that made it, and yeah.
Cibonchel, Lorenzo. I mean, it like functionally it works.
Yeah, like it's not bad stuff. It's just I do want to say that nowadays we would have probably used a pages thing and generated it that way. But that's a refactor that I don't feel like taking care of. At least not right now.
So the question would be is generator generate docs. If he's doing anything additionally special in here, because but one of the things that we were running into when we were on like V0 V1 docs was we lost a lot of the fidelity that type doc created when going through the markdown plugin.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of context and like interlinking that TypeScript is aware of, and TypeDoc when it generates HTML is able to use. But when we did the additional step into Markdown, we like a lot of that got stripped out. So I think that would probably be my curiosity, is if in doing this we are able to maintain a higher fidelity.
Well, I think we can actually switch to the HTML approach probably in now if we wanted to, because nowadays we have a component called Starlight Page, which we didn't have back when this was developed, which allows us to basically take the full appearance of a Starlight page and then add content to it. And using that, we could probably make a better solution than this that gives you the full power of TypeDoc if we specifically want to use the HTML stuff.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this one, I guess we have maybe page event end. I think that function that we have here is capable of altering the content, I guess, because that seems like to be what it's doing. So we could probably make some weird workaround where we add the slashes, but that doesn't feel very stable.
The other thing that I've done with Astro is created a plugin that basically, so I had external content and I needed to fetch it. And effectively, what I did is I made a plugin that hooked into one of the early lifecycle events, fetched the content, converted it from, I think it was like JSON or whatever, into Markdown, and then dumped it in a folder so that by the time all the other Astro steps ran, it just existed.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I don't know, like, if that would, if we lose fidelity, if we kind of went that route, if we did the full process directly into Markdown. Here, there's a get relative URL. I bet you that's where it is. He's replacing MD with the actual URL.
Hmm.
I believe what you'd end up wanting to do would be, instead of generating in document.html, you would want it as document/index.html. I think that would really need to be the only change required.
Mm.
Thanks for stopping by, Flopili. I feel like I always have to pause to make sure I pronounce your name or your avatar name correctly. I am pronouncing it right, correct? I feel bad if I'm mispronouncing it. Well, trying to pronounce it. Yes. Okay, good. I was if I'm mispronouncing it wrong the whole time. Can't leave. Yeah. You're stuck here until we're done. Thanks for stopping by. I think once I get this PR open with the imports changed, I think this is probably going to be where I'd be ready to call it a day.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel pretty tired as well. So
yeah, it's the end of your day too.
yeah,
My day's on this. I guess I've skipped over lunch at this point, so that definitely has an effect. But feel like we made some headway and stuff though.
yeah, a little bit. If you're looking at the board, at least it's looking a little better. Wait, why did I move? Wait, what? Why is that in the backlog? That shouldn't be in the backlog. That should be in review. Fuck.
And keep double checking now all of the trailing underscores. Here we go. Every time I do one, I'm like, did I remember to fix that? All right, 1, 2. Doesn't help that it's difficult to see it at first glance.
Mm. All right, that seems to have fixed it. I think, maybe. No, of course not. Couldn't just be easy. Value anchor. But wait, those are right. Why are these invalid anchors? Well, guess I'll undo the trailing stuff for now.
Shortcut. Get in there. Positioner. Thought I was almost done. Still have like 6 left. This is going to be a lot easier to check once I get the PR open too.
Yeah.
Lots of copying and pasting. The chance that I did that all correctly and didn't miss anything. SQL. All right.
All right, now we have a signing guide. It just needs to be rebuilt. Preview, we have store.
All right. Now search. Backtick, JS. Oh, well, searching all of it's in our in Tauri and plugin and workspace too. We're not consistent with it. Log content, docs. So I guess I want to scope this.
Looks good to me.
Presume we want the spelt out version. 3 backticks and then JavaScript.
Yeah, that's what I would probably prefer, just for the just because it's easier to search for.
Mm-hmm. Is the translated versions? Should I update those too? I don't remember how those get.
The translations you never have to update. That's kind of part of what I meant earlier with like translations are always a community effort.
Yeah,
We
but
have
like, are those generated based off of the existing ones, or is that a manual process?
that's a manual process at least right now.
Okay.
But there is a translations dashboard that reports when content is out of date based on the main content.
Okay.
So we always update the English version first, and that means that there's a Git commit that it can find for that page, and then it it checks what the latest version is of all these translated pages, and then compares them. And if the uh, if the base content in English is newer than the translated content, then they need updating.
Got it. Okay. All right.
That's at least how I understand that the translation dashboard works.
So I could probably include it in the, or I could probably also do the replacement for the translated docs then.
Yeah. It's it's good to do.
Okay. All right. Go replace all.
And here is the wait. I'm in the wrong chat. Here's the right chat. So there's the translations dashboard if you want to check it out. See what it's like.
Neat.
Uh,
This is
you're done.
Is this an Astro integration, or is this
I want to say that this is a custom Lorenzo adaptation of an early version of what Astro Docs used.
Got it. Okay.
Before we had Lunara as an alternative, and we have intentions of possibly switching to Lunara so that we don't have to maintain this solution, but it's effectively the same thing that
Okay.
Lunara provides.
Nifty.
You're happy with the store plugin PR I can merge?
I think so. Yeah.
Yep.
There wasn't too much in there, so.
No. Nice.
I think like anything that I ran into was with that was just the fact that it's all async. So like the docs were fine. It was just now how do I take that and put it into React and have that feel nice.
Yeah.
Because if you depend on that as the like initial state, now you're awaiting it to load. So that was pretty much the only difficulty that I ended up running into with it.
I see.
All right. Okay. And I'm opening up the PR with all of the import statements. All right, PR open. Let's do this. Scroll through, make sure I didn't miss any obvious things.
Mhm.
Probably end up doing the same too for the API examples, but that would those would all be up upstream in the main Tauri repo, right?
Yeah, they would be. Yep.
So that'll be for future effort.
Yeah.
I think this will be sufficient for most people that are using it. Oh,
Yep.
I missed one. SQL. Plugin SQL. And Windows state I missed. Plugin Windows state. Line 95. Ah, oh my. So many files touched.
Yeah. Touch all of the files.
Yeah, pretty much. Good.
I think I've done pretty much all I can do today, aside from actually sitting and writing documentation. But that's I'm not really up for that right now.
Yeah, I feel that. I just pushed up the last two that I missed, so I think the import one is ready pending any random failures.
Nice.
We are getting a failure on the build though.
Huh.
But it looks like it might be that trailing slash thing, so I might just need to rebase.
Yeah, that is quite likely.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome.
I think I don't think I see any other questions. We had a whole bunch of questions right at the beginning, which is good. And then
Yeah.
everybody got settled in, I think.
Yeah.
So I'd be down to do this again if you are. I feel like we got a
Definitely.
fair amount done. So
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah. I
you
mean,
taking the time.
on the project board, at least, all the in review stuff is taken care of now. So
Nice.
that's something.
Nice. So if, again, reiterating what we kind of opened with, if y'all are interested in contributing, documentation is a great place to start. The project board within Tauri Docs has a list of issues that are ready for people to jump into. And we're tracking most of the work through here. V2 is effectively the board that we care the most about because that's going to be we need that board cleared off before V2 can go stable effectively. So if you can jump in and help out with that, that's the place to start. Anything else I'm missing, Simon?
No, you covered it pretty well.
Cool. Thanks for stopping by and spending the time with us. I think we're both pretty spent. Reading all those docs, I'm just like, oh my goodness, I could feel all my eyes like blurring together. But it was fun. I appreciate everybody stopping by. Appreciate your time, Simon. Is there any links or anything else we should share on our way out here?
None that I have the brain capacity to think of right now.
Go follow Simon's work, GitHub. Yeah. Oh, I forgot I switched off of there. Links are there we go. Yeah. You did some YouTube for a little bit, but you're kind of took a break with it, right?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of YouTube before I started working again, and then started working again. Didn't have enough time on my hands, so
I've been promising that I'm going to make videos like succinct videos rather than long streams for a long time. But I'm like, we can make the live streams happen, and I can be consistent with it, and that's been the thing that I've been keeping on. Anything more, it's just been like, I don't have the brain capacity and bandwidth to make that happen right now, but eventually. Yeah, I guess thanks for stopping by. Again, check out his socials, and we appreciate Simon's effort and Fabian and everybody else that stopped by, and we'd love to see more contributions. So with that, I guess have a great rest of your week. Happy Tuesday, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Maybe Dax, maybe not. We'll see. We'll see how spent we are after this one. Right. Bye now.